All right, the Bills are now 8-3, and I saw some kind of stat. It's like 60% or 63% chance of winning the division. Every team that's gone 8-3 for the last 20 years or something. So clearly the Bills are on the right track. But how right is that track? Well, we're hearing lots of talk about the offense not being consistent enough. And it's not really talk. We're seeing that. We're seeing that, oddly, this offense isn't as potent as we expected. Now, I'm a Finn fan, but I'm really going to try today to just play the evaluation position and hand you over information so you can make your own decision. But clearly something is off track. Now, we know Diggs, he's playing like a stud, okay? So he's out of the equation, and he's the primary receiver. Running game, we know it's doing pretty good, but it's not the focus. So we're left on the offense with the focus of the offensive line and Josh Allen as far as players. But I believe that coaching and setup and framework in the NFL is more crucial than any other major sport. And it's really even more paramount than the talent itself. Because great talent with a poor framework can be squandered. Okay? And you don't need to look any farther than in your own division with Tua. He's having one kind of season now, and he was talked about being terrible, and another kind of season last year. Tua is pretty much the same for the most part, but the framework is dramatically different. So if we take that understanding of framework and we trying to figure out what is going on with the Bills' offense, not saying it's not going to correct itself, it's not going to get better. I'm talking about as of now in the last few weeks. We have the offensive line, Josh Allen, Dorsey, McDermott, and Bean, because that is the framework, and those are the key players that are in question for this Bills 2022 offense. Now, I'm going to get into the offensive line because I don't think Josh Allen is a problem. Now, he needs to make better decisions, sometimes throwing that football, but that's part of being a young quarterback, a quarterback that's been asked to do a ton. And it's not to say he doesn't need to change that. He does. But clearly this guy is the offense when he's the top rusher and he's passing for everything. So I don't believe Allen's the problem. I mean, he needs to get fixed. And really, I was talking with a friend who's a really big Bills fan, and he says the offensive line sucks. Me personally, I don't think it sucks. But I'm not going to deal in my personal opinion. I'm going to give you a bunch of stats. And if it's the offensive line clearly isn't as good as a lot of Bills fans would want. So you have Cromer, you have Dorsey, because Cromer's coaching them up. You have Dorsey calling the plays, McDermott, who's creating the outer side of the framework, and then you have Bean, who brought the talent in. And then you have Dawkins, you have Saffold, you have Bates, or Morse, Bates, and then you have Brown or Quisenberry. And that's the group that we need to look at. So I'm going to get into the offensive line unit, and you can make your own decision. But I think it looks pretty clear to me what is going on here. So thank you for stopping by. If you haven't heard, if you can't figure it out, my voice isn't as sweet and beautiful and eloquent sounding as it usually is. It's even more guttural and worse. Messed my hip up at the beginning of the week, middle of the week. I got my finger ripped up, and now it looks like I got some kind of throat thing. So I apologize in advance. But I want to say thank you for stopping by, all you Bills fans. I really wish you had checked out my last Bills podcast because I thought it was my best as far as predictive podcast I've done in this little gig of mine. I only had like 300 and something people. But anyway, I'm glad you're here. And I want to give you a shout out and a shout out to Ace Per Head, my sponsor, because without you guys and without them, this show ain't going down. Ace Per Head's betting software is the premier white label platform for bookies to manage their players and grow their sportsbook operation. Click the link in the description below to get set up in minutes.
Ask for the Curtis promo and get a special introductory discount.
Okay, let's start off with very basic. I'm going to use some PFF just as an overarching, quick, expedient way to give an indication of the players and where they're at. Every player, every lineman on the Bills' offensive line is playing worse than they did last year, with the exception of Morse, who's roughly about the same position or level of play that he has in the previous year, which is average to slightly below average. And PFF, I'll start with him, gives him a 63 average, which is 19th. Considering there's only one center really starting on a team, 19th is just a little below average. And he's playing fairly okay. But other than that, other than him, everyone is playing worse. And let's take a look. You got Dawkins, 72.9. He's playing 20th. He's given up 21 pressures, 7 penalties, and 3 sacks. Not a stellar year. But we know Dawkins has talent, but he's clearly playing under what he has. Then you have Saffold, the left guard, a free agent. He had the accident in the preseason, so we always have to hold on to that. But his play has dramatically dropped in some regards, and it's maybe not what you think. Now, he's had 497 pass snaps compared to 228 run snaps this year. And he's allowed 21 pressures and 4 penalties. He has an overall 51.3 grade, and he's ranked 64th in the league. And if you look at his pass grade, it's like in the mid-50s. He's really struggling most in the run game, and we're seeing a little bit of an issue. Now, if you look to him in 21, he had 467 pass snaps, 386 run snaps, and he allowed 26 pressures and 5 pens, which is really similar to what he's doing this year. So the guy that got brought in from the Titans isn't doing much different at all in the pass protection than he was last year. So if you're not really happy with his play, then you have to ask, well, this is what you expected to get in the pass protection. But the difference is you have 228 run snaps, which is about 33% of his overall plays, compared to 467 pass snaps and 386 run snaps, which is about, his run snaps were probably around, 48%. So you're seeing a very huge difference in how Saffold is being used. But the pass protection is relatively the same. And then when you add in that the run snaps, the 228 he has, how many of those are just draws or Allen running? You could take 80 run plays out just about that are Allen's. So that would bring it down to about 120, 130 run snaps. Minus the draws, which could easily be 50%. He's only getting about 60 to 70 conventional run snaps for the season so far, which is odd because that's what he excelled at with the Titans. So you'd have to ask yourself, if he's just bad, why was he brought here? If he excels in the run game, why was he brought into a pass-heavy offense? You have to either blame Cromer for not raising his skill level up, or Bean for bringing the wrong style in here, or Dorsey for not calling a game plan which accentuates his abilities, or he just has turned the corner and sucks now. That's for you to decide. Now, Ryan Bates, 58.7 at right guard, which is an easier position than left guard. So you got to give a little boost in the positional difference. He's ranked 49th overall, and he's never really been good. He's more of a center. My friend tells me that's what he's being groomed for. So you have a right guard that really he's not good. And I pegged him to be the true weak link. That's debatable, but whatever. So then you got Brown, your second-year young guy, who last year was a very pleasant surprise. This year, his rank is 49.1. He's the 77th tackle in the game. And he's allowed on on 350 pass blocks compared to 161 run blocks, 3 sacks, 28 pressures. Compared to last year, he had 450 pass blocks and 1 sack and 30 pressures. So he has played worse this year. Why? Is it poor coaching? Is the injury to his back inhibiting him to really be what he can be? Or is it the pass calling, the play calling, which is lending to high levels of pass protection? And, you can get into that whole debate, but I don't want to get into that for you. I'm just going to give you the information. Or does he just suck? That's for you to choose. And then you have Quisenberry. He's getting a 63.6. He's PFF grade. He's ranked 51st in the NFL as far as tackles. Last year, he was 80.6. Now he's down to 63.3. He had 650 pass blocks, played 1,100 snaps last year. Crazy. And he had 549 run blocks. Again, you're seeing about 48%, 47% run compared to about 50, 53% pass, with most of them being designed conventional runs and a smaller portion than what you're seeing here, a very much smaller portion as just draws. And I've talked about how draws are very easy to diagnose, and it makes it easier to stop, and it puts problems on the offensive line and the running back because they're easy to diagnose. Anyway, so he gave up in 21, 43 pressures and 11 sacks. Compared to this year, 289 snaps, 188 pass protection, 101 run block. So he's about 38%, something like that. He's going to have 2 sacks and 14 pressures. So if you take the 289 and double it a little bit more, that's 50% of what he had last year. So he's giving up actually probably about 10, on this pace, 10 to 15 less pressures than he did last year. And then probably about 7 sacks less than last year. So his play has improved. But yet his overall grade's diminished because his run blocking has diminished. But again, it makes me say, it's not all runs are the same. And when you have very few runs and a lot of passes, it kind of puts everybody in the position where they're having to go against pass rushers that get over here. Come here. Sit. Stop. So I got a dog here. Got to break him up. So Quisenberry has been in pass protect, and everyone he's facing is understanding pretty much what they're calling. And so even in this heavy pass protection system, he's doing better in his pass protection, but his run blocking has kind of floundered a bit. And so that leaves you to say, is Croma not coaching them up right? Is the style of the run game not conducive towards his skill set? Or did Bean bring in the wrong guy? And that's for you to decide. Now, I want to take a look at the overall offense of the Bills. And I think this is really where, for me, it told me the scene. And it made me understand who needs to get better. Now, everybody needs to get better, but who's the primary person? So I'm going to go through these stats, and I'll let you kind of get it, and I'll throw my little 2 cents in. So Bills right now have the 8th least time to throw before pressure, 2.2 seconds. Now, immediately you're going to say, well, Curtis, obviously the offensive line sucks. They're giving up all that pressure that quickly. Okay. We'll wait on that. So they're giving up the 7th least pressures, though. So this kind of alleviates Allen from the equation, because if you're having the least time to throw before pressure, that's making it the hardest for you to have success as a quarterback. And yet, It's the seventh least pressure, and we know why, because he boots out, he buys times, he escapes, and yada, yada, yada. And so that will pull Allen really out of the equation, for many reasons. But this is just one. So they're the ninth most blitzed. 2020, Allen was blitzed up the yin-yang. Number one most blitzed quarterback, like 30 or 40 blitzes. It was ridiculous. And then the next year, 2021, it all became mostly zones. We're back to the blitz, ninth most blitzed offense. Now, you could say, because of all these blitzes, Allen's not getting it off quick enough. But there's a little bit of a stat that's going to say, well, maybe that's not necessarily the case. So, air yards, which means you throw that football and the distance between the quarterback and the receiver, what ranking is that? This is the fifth most vertical offense by quarterback. I'm not dealing with intention. For Allen to throw at 8.7. So you take eighth least time to throw at 2.2 seconds, which is incredibly fast. That's like Brady-esque. So Brady gets through it because he's able to process and he understands that all that quickly. So you're getting this eighth most time to throw, least time to throw. You're getting all these blitzes, ninth most blitzed, which means the pressure's coming in and Allen needs to distribute, okay? And he's still getting the seventh least pressure, so he's buying time, but you're still one of the most vertical by throws. Now, this could be because Allen's not hitting his outlet, and I have to get into all that, and I'm not really there. That's for you as a Bills fan who really watches every game, and you can make that decision. I think there is some of that in there. My outside opinion is this is a very, very, very vertical offense. And everything seems to be pressed deep. And I see a lot of times they'll cut the short off and they'll cut the deep off. And that kind of flood zones. And it makes it difficult. They seem to know kind of what you guys are doing. But maybe not. That's my take. But this is what you got so far. So you're running ninth most play action. And play action is based on the defense buying into that you're running the football and biting up so you can get the easy passes. Do you think people are coming up to bite on your run game so this play action has maximum effect? If not, why are you the ninth most pass action plays team? And then you're the 11th most RPO, which again entails the defense to bite and play on the run. So you're really 9th and 10th most RPO and play action team, which is a run-based deception. You believe there's going to be a run, you make people bite up, and you find voids in the defense. Our defense is biting on your run. Let's see, if you were a defensive coordinator, would you bite on the run if your analytics of your opponent looked like this? Okay, rushing attempts, 12th most, 284. Now, there's only about 7 teams that have 11 games. There's a lot of teams only in 10. So you're going to take my 20, 30 out of this, and I'll drop you some. But we'll just even say that, okay? Allen, though, has 81 rushes. So that's really 200 rushes, which makes you 33rd or 32nd, however you want to look at it. You have the least amount of rushes in the NFL by running back, not quarterback. Now, Allen gets 5.3 yards before contact. So that kind of skews things when you see the overall pass blocking, yards before contact grade for the Bills. But when you look at Singletary and Cook, you see a surprising number. And that is 3 yards before contact, which is very high for Singletary, and 3.2 for Cook. So the offensive line is blocking about 3.1 yards per carry, which is like top 13 in the league, which means you're a very good run blocking team in these instances with your running backs. But Singletary has 124 rushes, and Cook has, 30 or 40. So if you got a quarterback that's throwing, I don't know how many passes he's got right now, which is, I should have wrote it down, but we all know it's extraordinarily high. And you're passing the football around 66 to 68% of the time. And even though you are able to create yards through your offensive line, are you going to bite on all this RPO and play action? Are you going to say to guys, we got to stop the run? You're going to say, stop the pass. We got to stop Diggs. We got to stop Davis. I mean, that would be the same response. But yet, you have the most vertical offense. You're obviously getting blitzed a lot. Pressure's coming in fast. Your quarterback's making hay because he's got to move left and right. He's the number one rusher, and you continue not to run. Okay. But then you continue to run play actions and RPOs when teams are not buying. This clearly says to me, you're getting some good yards before contact in the run game. You're seeing a lot of these players kind of play a little down in some ways, but maybe in overall grades, but in their pass protection, not so much. It's the run blocking that really is making you struggle, but yet you're getting some good yards before contact, but you don't run the football at all. This says to me, Bean, I don't think he's an idiot. He brought 2 run-blocking offensive linemen in. But somewhere in the process, whether it was McDermott or Dorsey, they said, we're just going to throw, fumble, with 2 run-blocking offensive linemen. And despite the pressure being quick, despite our quarterback being hurt, despite our quarterback being our lead rusher, despite the 2.2 seconds pressure, we're still going to be a vertical offense, and we're not going to give the running backs the football, except if it's a draw, which is easy to diagnose, and we're not even going to really do it that much. That's my wrap-up. I added a little of me in the end. But this is the information. You can take with it what you want. I'm not being a hater. I really like Allen. I really like you guys. You guys have been awesome to me. I said the same thing here to my Dolphins last year, the year before, and the beginning of this year. So it's clear the NFL's passing game is being reduced. This is my personal 2 cents. It's being reduced a little bit. Defenses are having the cycle of talent flow into their secondary. Defensive coordinators are understanding how to play it. They can't stop it, but they limit it and put you in situations, get you off track, whatever you want to say. And the run game is playing a little bit more potency, and it's getting off a little bit more because there's less practices for tackling. Tackling is pretty poor. And so pass balanced is the way offenses are really being successful. The old way was pass, and if you had a few runs in there, nice. But those offenses don't seem to be thriving like the other ones. You're seeing lesser offensive lines, and I'm going to go through that, and lesser teams being successful in their balanced approach. This, I think, comes to McDermott and Dorsey and an obstinate nature to pass, and not be pass balanced. I do hope the best for your team. 8-3 is a very, very admirable position to be in. The Finns got a little bit of an edge over you, but these last 6 weeks, anything could happen. And I still think you're on track. Sorry for Von to make your dreams come true with the Super Bowl, but it's going to take the run game. Allen is screaming for balance. This team without Von is screaming for some sort of balance. They can't be on the field all the time. They need more time on the bench. I could be wrong. My friend who I talked to might be right, but I'm trying to give you some good information with my little opinion in there. I hope the best for you guys. Have a good vacation. I do hope Von comes back. I want him to be there when my Dolphins play you guys because I don't want any excuses if we somehow win. Well, Von wasn't in. I want us to meet head-to-head, 100% healthy, and let the best team win. Curtis saying, thanks for staying to the end. Please like, comment, subscribe. Catch you next time. Be well. Thanks again. Start building your own online sportsbook today by getting signed up with aceperhead.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.